Hello and welcome to the latest Odds Checker betting podcast. A bumper show this week, of course, looking ahead to Glorious Goodwood, the 5-day festival, which includes the like of the Sussex Stakes and the return of Baaeed is the highlight on the illustrious Sussex Downs. I'm going to be your host, Danny Archer, and we've got together a top duo to hopefully point in the direction of plenty of winners throughout the 5 days at Goodwood. First off, Johnny Ward. Johnny, how are you after the All-Ireland final?
Yeah, a little bit tender, Dan. I'm a Galway man. We promised that we might win for so long, ended up coming up short. Because of the scheduling this year, it would have been completely unique if the Sam Maguire Cup were to be paraded at the Galway races, which looked like it might happen for much of yesterday. But unfortunately, it isn't going to happen. But yeah, I mean, good form for Galway and Goodwood. I think this is a brilliant week of the year in terms of racing. You can kind of flick between the two. Galway's a lot of evening meets and really good racing, and Goodwood has some absolute stars. I think the ground is going to be interesting. Goodwood, I see it's officially good ground, even though I think you've said to me off air about how warm it's been. So they've obviously heavily watered. It's difficult as well in Galway. They've been watering for months now just to keep the ground safe there. So the ground's going to be interesting. It'll probably maybe not quite as quick as you'd expect for this time of year, given that we haven't had much rain, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, as Johnny says, of course, the Galway Festival as well, the 7-day festival at Ballybrit, taking centre stage as well in Ireland. Andy, Goodwood down the years, hope you're well. Has it been a place where you've backed plenty of winners?
Probably not as productive as I would have liked. I think the problem with both Goodwood and Galway, and Johnny backed me up on this, there's a lot of factors out of your control. You could argue which one's worse than the other for luck in running. But you do need horses that have handled the track before predominantly. I always look towards horses that have gone around Galway before and at least come up that hill, because I think that's a significant factor. I'll try and back horses as well that have run already in the week as well. So you might get a situation where the first 2 days you'll get horses running on the Friday and Saturday again, horses trying to double up or even treble up in certain circumstances. That's worth bearing in mind. And Goodwood, yeah, it can vary from meet to meet, can't it? Sometimes you want to be on the front runners, sometimes you want to be on hold-up horses when there's a bit of a car crash on the far side fence. So it does test you as a punter. You're kind of like yo-yoing between, track form, strong time figures, or just course form, and it can get a little bit messy, and your mind can get a little bit scrambled. As I said, not always the best horses win at Goodwood and Galway. From my perspective, when you're a time man, clearly that it doesn't always guarantee you're going to come up, get ahead of the pack.
Well, we've got lots to look forward to, and just before we do deep dive into Goodwood, a reminder to like and subscribe to the Racing Weekly of Rishi Prasad and Sam Turner. I'm sure another interesting show from the guys this week, looking ahead to Goodwood and Galway. And I've also got to point you in the direction of the Odds Checker app. It's the best place to find the latest offers, tips from Andy, and plenty more of the Odds Checker team of tipsters. So do head to the Odds Checker app for the best odds, offers, and more. We kick off, though, on Tuesday at Goodwood. Action gets underway at 1:50 through to 5:55. And the undoubted highlight, of course, is at 3:35, the £500,000 oddschecker Goodwood Cup. Kyprios versus Stradivarius. Stradivarius, of course, a 4-time winner of the race and ridden by Andrea Atzeni this time, who rode into success in 2017 and 2018. The defending champion Trushan is also a potential runner, but of course ground conditions, as the guys have already touched on, could be a concern for him. Start with you first, Andy. What do you make of this event? Do you think it's a good opportunity for Kyprios to retain his unbeaten record this year?
Yeah, most likely on the ground. I think we've already mentioned loads of times in previous podcasts with Trushan, he's very much reliant on easy ground. I mean, he'll be okay on genuine good ground, good to firm ground. If they don't water, or we do get favourable conditions, which are forecast down in Goodwood, might be of a concern if you're backing Alan King's horse. Look, he can still win, but he's definitely not going to be at his absolute best without a little bit of ease in the ground. So, come the sort of fourth race on the Tuesday, we'll get a chance to have a look at it and weigh it all up. As it stands at the moment, he's a very hard horse to tip. Whereas Kyprios an easy horse to recommend based on his victory at Ascot, as we've touched upon before. It was a really good, strongly run race, which suited his qualities. I thought he won despite of the trip. He obviously stayed it well in the end, but I think he's got enough gears to be just as effective over short as he proved when he won the Savile Beg. So this 2 mile distance should be absolutely ideal for him. And I think there's more to come from him, obviously being a younger horse, only a 4-year-old. That backs up that sort of theory anyway. I think he'll get the better of Stradivarius again. I think the flying Newmarket is Coltrane. He did a remarkably good figure when he won at Sandown last time out. They went a proper gallop that day. The race got really stretched early on, and he was held up out towards the back, but he came through very strongly. I think he ended up winning by 10 lengths in the end. He wasn't beating any mugs. They're not top notches by any stretch of the imagination, but Rodrigo Diaz, you can go in that, they're all decent Group 3 horses, and he made them look very pedestrian. So I think he's improving at a rapid rate of knots. And don't forget, Trueshan was very much in his mould before he became a very, very top class stayer, winning sort of handicaps and working his way through the ranks. So at the prices, given that we're likely to lose Trueshan, and even if he does run, he's probably not going to be at his best. I think the sort of 9-1, I think, available for Coltrane doesn't look a bad shout, because if Trueshan doesn't run, you'll get a rule 4, but you'll still be on a nice each way bet. I'd rather go with him at the prices than I would perhaps Kyprios at a very short price.
Okay, 13-8 for Kyprios with 365, William Hill and Coral. Stradivarius next in at around the 9-4 mark. 130 for Trueshan, 10-1 for Andy's pick there. Coltrane across the board, and it's 16-1 and bigger. Kyprios, one of probably the surprises of the year, Johnny, with his upward progression. Of course, he won the Gold Cup last time out. Do you think he'll be tough to beat again here?
Yeah, I think he's one of the bets of the week, to be honest. It's amazing that Aidan O'Brien has only won this race twice with Yates and Yates again, 2006, 2008. Considering the stayers he's had, he's a very, very weak record in this race, actually. But I think he has the stayer of the future here in Kyprios. So I thought it was absolutely brilliant at Royal Ascot. I know a lot was made about the ride that Frankie Dettori gave in Stradivarius, but I thought he was by far the best horse in the race. As Andy says, he's very, very trip versatile. I thought he stayed the 2.5 miles well, but that was a very muddling race. So it'll be effectively very similar to this, where he had a turn of foot. I love the way he finished his race. I thought he was kind of comfortably holding them, had plenty in hand. And he is the stayer of the future. He could be the future Yates, the future kind of Ascot Gold Cup horse for year after year before he goes down the National Hunt Stallion career. And I don't really see how he's beaten her, to be honest. I think he's just a perfect kind of constitution of these type of races. He stays well. He has a turn of foot. He's tactically versatile. Stable horse are in good form. I think he completely confirmed the form with Stradivarius and Princess Zoe. And I think he should win. He's one of my bankers of the week.
Just very quickly, Johnny, on the Frankie Dettori, obviously not riding or riding Stradivarius. Andrea Atzeni taking the ride. If it is Stradivarius' last run, which it rumoured it might be, do you think it's a bit of a shame that they don't go out together here at Goodwood?
Absolutely, and again, I don't think John Gosling covered himself in glory, to be honest, after the race. I think you should keep your opinions to yourself when it comes to jockeys. If you think your horse got a bad ride, say it to the jockey afterwards. I don't think you say it to the press, and particularly somebody who's given so much to racing as Frankie. I think Frankie's done more for racing nearly than anyone in terms of his razzmatazz, kind of his that celebrity status, and he's probably the most recognisable person in racing. Now that Lester is gone, and I don't think John Gosling was fair on him at Ascot. I think it was maybe an unfortunate way. The ride was maybe unfortunate the way it worked out, but I think it is disappointing. And he's been an amazing horse driver. He's nearly emulated Yates and winning 4 Gold Cups. And I do think it's sad that Frankie's not riding for the last time. I think John Gosling could have been a little bit nicer to him, certainly publicly at Ascot.
Let's look ahead at the Goodwood Cup. Coltrane for Andy Holding and Kyprios, a warm favourite for Johnny Ward. The Whirlpool Lennox Stakes, as well as an interesting race, a competitive Group 2 over the 7 furlongs. Competitive enough event this, but Sacred, who I think has been burning up the gallops, well, that's the rumour at least, is 2-1 favourite. Pogo at 9-2. LaSalle at 6s, Kinross as well about 6-1, Lanakash at 8-1, and Sandrine 14-1. Bigger the remainder. Well, Sacred is short of 7-4, bigger 2-1 with Coral. Andy, I'll start with you. Do you like the chances of William Haggis's charge here?
I certainly do. Yeah, the guys in the office at oddschecker get me to do certain features on a Monday or a Tuesday. kind of create a bit of interest towards the weekend's racing, or look at races in advance. And they got me to look at. They just said pick any race at Goodwood that you like the look of and the shape of. And as it happened, the Lennox was one of the races I previewed. In fact, it was the only race I previewed, just because I thought Sacred was a scandalously big price.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't quite get my head around it, because as I was going down the list, I was like crossing one off after another. That won't run. This is likely to go elsewhere. This was engaged the weekend. Blah blah blah. And every time I kept turning around to Sacred, I just thought, well, she's the best horse in this race here at over 7 furlongs. Certainly based on the figures that we got when she won last year, and she beat Langtry at Newbury. They went a worldy gallop that day, and she quickened up really well to win. That was a strongly run 7 furlong race, as you're likely to see. And you know, she has only run the one since, and that was an incredibly eye-catching run, incredibly eye-catching run even in the Group 1 at Royal Ascot over 6 furlongs. That race has worked out really well. The winner and second went on to finish second and third respectively in the Goodwood Cup. Minzal has won since. There's been another horse that's come out of that race in recent weeks and has won as well. Can't quite remember it, but it's a strong piece of form. So I thought, well, she's the best horse in the race. She's the quickest on our times, and yet she was 20 to 1 with some firms. Most firms were 16s. I thought, am I missing something here? I know she was entered up in the Sussex Stakes. That could have been slightly off-putting to many. Well, she run in the Group 1 over a mile, or will they run her in the 7? But the 7 looked the obvious option. She's never proven that she stayed a mile. And it looked as though all roads would lead to the Lennox, as far as I could see. So I was quite happy to put up at that price. Obviously now 7 to 4, 2 to 1. Do you really want to get involved if you want a bigger price? So obviously the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're asking me, is she the most likely winner? Absolutely yes. She's improving around the track. That's the only negative I could see. But other than that, I mean, if she gets a clear run here, she'll absolutely batter this lot.
2 to 1 stand out with Coral and Labrooks. Johnny, are you in agreement, or are you looking elsewhere?
Totally, yeah. I think she's probably just progressed to from 3 to 4 as well, and I think she was just slightly caught out of her comfort zone of the 6 at Ascot. I think 7 furlongs going to suit her a little bit better. Stayed on very well. She just looks the best horse in the race. Doesn't look overly competitive either for it's relatively small field size. She just travelled so well. As Andy mentioned, you're hoping for a bit of luck and running when you're back in horse at Goodwood. She's drawn 9, but she looks very, very good. I think this trip is probably better than the 6. I think she's taking a lot of beating.
The final group race then on the card, with the guys both then going for Sacred in the Lennox, is the Japan Racing Association Vintage Stakes, a Group 2 event at 225, £150,000 prize fund for the 7 furlong event. And of course, it features the Cheshire winner, Holloway Boy for Carl Burke. He's your 2 to 1 favourite, with William Hill, Bet Victor and Coral. Mysterious Night at 4 to 1. Dear My Friend is as big as 13 to 2 with Bet 365. And Dornick Castle is at 15 to 2. Galarion at 8 to 1, and it's 10 to 1 and bigger the remainder. So 9 runners go to post. Andy, what did you make of Holloway Boy's performance in the Chesham? First time out, it was an astonishing win. Do you think he can back it up here?
It was an astonishing win. I think it astonished all connected. They thought he'd run well, and he'd acquit himself with credit without maybe troubling the judge. But the fact that he came through so strongly to win, despite not having any experience behind him, is surely the sign of a very useful 2-year-old. That said, I don't think it was a vintage Chesham this year. Alfred Munnins bombed out quite disappointingly. And we've seen the form already cast adrift courtesy of the second running badly at Leopardstown, or not getting the race run to suit at Leopardstown, should I say, Purling Path. And Finn's Cross, who was a creditable 4th, finished last of 5, beaten 12 lengths of the day by Narva Crown at Ascot. So it's not looking probably the strongest of listed races ever run at the Berkshire track. And I do think he's slightly shorter in the betting than he should be. I think all the horses have got stronger, or just as stronger form claims, even though they haven't technically run in a race of that stature yet. I think the kind of 2-year-olds they've run against, or particularly the time figures that they've run and the manner in which they've won, suggests that they're equally on par. Put it this way: if Dear My Friend, Dornoch Castle would have been in the Chesham Stakes, I think they would have gone very close to winning that as well. And given that Mark Johnson's had a lot of 2-year-olds improve markedly since Royal Ascot, and he deliberately missed a lot of Royal Ascot with quite a few of them, I think Goodwood is very much going to be his meeting this year, Mark Johnson, particularly with his 2-year-olds. He seems to have geared this meeting around the way he's campaigned his horses. And I like both of these two. I'll probably back them both at the prices, sort of 6-7 to 1. Huge fan of Dawn at Castle. He beat a horse called Coco Jack first time out at Haydock, and he absolutely demolished him. But the pair of them were miles clear of the rest. The time figure was very, very good. I know George Scott was a bit disappointed Coco didn't win that day, but you know, the time figure suggests he didn't run too badly. And Dawn at Castle's won again since, again in another good number. And D, my friend's an equally strong galloper as well. He's made the run to win twice, gone further clear when pushed, and he hasn't even been asked a serious question yet. So it's a bit of a spin of the coin which one I went for individually. So I'd just say look back both of these two. I think they're very smart. The time figures have both been very good, and I think they're overpriced. And we know that Mark Johnson has got a good record in this race. He won it with Dark Vision, I think, in 2018-19, was it? So and these two are very similar types.
Okay, 2 picks of Team Johnson then for Andy there, dear my friend, and Dawn at Castle. Johnny?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how Holloway boy goes because I think there was chat that he was for sale since Royal Ascot. I think a lot of people just aren't fully believing the form. It was a remarkable story. There's plenty of pace in this race. I think that's going to suit hold up horses like him. He'll have no excuses. We know more about him here, but I'd probably go with Mysterious Night. I think he's going to be totally suited by the way the race is won. Stayed on well the last day. And I think it's fascinating to see what the market makes of the favourite because there's probably a little bit of disbelief about Royal Ascot, just the way the race kind of fell apart a bit. And as much as if you were to believe a performance like that on debut, this horse will be very good. I think this will tell us a lot more, but I definitely think Mysterious Night is going to shorten the betting.
Mysterious Night at 4 to 1. Johnny, dear my friend, Dawn at Castle at 13 to 2 and 15 to 2 respectively for Andy. Very quickly, Johnny, any other business on day one at Goodwood?
Nothing else actually. Looking forward to a couple at Galway on the day, but nothing else at Goodwood.
Okay, we'll preview Galway at the end of the show, so we'll come back for that. Andy, anything else?
Yeah, just a couple of horses just to keep an eye on. Bell Rock in the first, very consistent type. I always like him. He's always capable of running some big figures. He ran well in a good listed race on the numbers last time out at York behind Valiant Knight. That form's worked out quite well. Marie's Diamond ran really well Sunday in a listed race at Pontefract. So I think he'll go all right there. And I think there's a well handicapped horse that runs in the last race, a filly of Sir Michael's, Crystal Caprice. She lowered the colours of a strongly fancied horse at Yarmouth last time out, winning by a wide margin. But she also comes out of a very good race at Newbury as well the time before behind Harry and Roger Charlton's White Beam, who they think is a pattern race filly in the waiting. And she wasn't knocked about that day to only get beat 4 lengths. So to come out of those two races with a mark of 87, I think is quite favourable. So yeah, I don't think there's a better handicapped horse on the first day than Crystal Caprice. It wouldn't surprise me if she's running in great races later on in the season.
Okay. A daughter of Frank or Crystal Caprice and related to the mighty Crystal Oceans. It's Crystal Caprice runs in the 520 and Bell Rock is around a 17 to 2 shot for the opening 150, the Chesterfield Cup handicap. Moving on to the Wednesday, of course, the feature race of the whole meeting, the £1 million Qatar Sussex Stakes, is the highlight of 3:35. But the race has sadly lost some of its brilliance with the defection this morning of Coroebus at the time of recording on Monday due to lameness, was found to have an abscess. So it looks like a bit of a penalty kick really for Baaeed to maintain his unbeaten record and make it 9 from 9. He's as short as the 1 to 6 favourite for the Sussex Stakes, and it's much bigger prices about the rest. 10 to 1 for Alcohol Free in Order Australia, 14 to Modern Games, 33 to both Baccarat Leon and Chindit, and 40 to On for Angel Blur. Bit of a shame, Johnny, that we don't have the Baaeed versus Coroebus battle, but it's still good to see Baaeed back at Goodwood, where kind of the magic of his journey started really this time last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to believe just the way he's been trained and taken on so slowly. To be honest, I didn't give Coroebus any chance whatsoever of beating him anyway. I know it slightly takes away from the race, and I think we had each way angles into it. We now have 7 runners, and that's if they all go to post. I think Baaeed is miles better than these. Coroebus obviously fell in at Royal Ascot. I think he would have done well to finish second here. I mean, if you're looking at a race we want to suit Baaeed, this looks to be it. I thought, to be fair to Order of Australia, I thought he was very, very good at the Curragh the last day. He's a typical kind of strong stay over 7 furlongs, and he just finds plenty for pressure. But he's a bit out of his comfort zone here, as he showed in this race last year. You have him and Batrat Leon, who probably be kind of disputing the pace, which would completely make the race to suit Baaeed, who's, I guess we're just not going to find out much more about him, really. I mean, it's not a strong renewal of the race. If you take Coroebus out, it's like Order of Australia. He's what price in the race last year? 18-1 when he finished well beaten behind Alcohol Free. He was obviously in good form herself coming here, but she's nowhere near the quality of Baaeed. And I think it's going to be pretty much exactly like it was at Royal Ascot. He's going to just travel well and win, without us kind of knowing much more about him. And I'd love to see him step up to 1 mile and 2. Whether that happens or not, I'm not sure, but we're just not going to find out much more about him here.
Yeah, Baaeed 1 to 6 the minute. Frankel, of course, went off at 1 to 20 back in 2012, but he's going to be the shortest price favourite since that, despite 2 odds-on winners since in Kingman and Solo. And obviously, it's tough to look elsewhere. Do you agree with Johnny that maybe Order of Australia could give him the most to think about?
Yeah, there's not a lot to add, really. When we're looking at races like this, they just don't get me excited. So for betting purposes, there's no each way angle in here, really. If you want to see a nice horse, then obviously Baaeed fits all that criteria. He's probably going to have to do very, very little to win this race. He'd only have to turn up in the same form that we've seen him already so far this season. He's already won at the track when I think he won by 6 lengths, didn't he, last year in Group 3 company. Yeah, the only sort of fun or excitement you could have in this race is perhaps have a bet without the favourite. So I'd probably go Alcohol Free. She looks the obvious one. Won this race last year. Comes here off the back of a good win in the July Cup when she looked to be back to her best. What trips her best, I don't really know. She's fairly versatile between 6 furlongs and a mile. That's all you can say, looking at her CV. But yeah, she's more likely to run a race more than most. But I presume she'll be second favourite anyway. She's going to be favoured in the without the favourite market. So I'm not really tipping something that's going to offer a great deal of value. It's just a bit of a shame, really, with Coroebus not running. I agree with John. I don't think he'd be good enough anyway. But at least in there, it would have given the race a better narrative than it does at the present moment in time.
That's Baaeed, the hot favourite for the Sussex Stakes. And a cracking undercard as well. We've got at 3 o'clock the Molecomb Stakes, a Group 3 event for 2-year-olds over 5 furlongs, £75,000 prize fund. Rocket Rodney for George Scott is the kind of 11 to 8 favourite. Wallbank at 9 to 4. Studio City for Michael O'Callaghan, who has a decent record in the race, at 11 to 2. Eddie's Boy 6 to 1. Thunder Moore at 14s. Trillium, Dicky Bird, and Looking for Linda complete the 8 at bigger prices. Rocket Rodney, Andy, are you sweet on the chances of the Rocket?
Yeah, he's a horse that I've had a little bit of not a vested interest in, but I do a bit of work for George Scott. We speak a few times a week with regards to entries and stuff like that. And Rocket Rodney was one of these 2-year-olds that burst onto the scene early on the season that kind of got me thinking he could well be up to the level of this race. And when he won here at Goodwood early in the season, me and George spoke about perhaps running him in the Molecomb. So that has been the plan for a long, long time. And his 2 subsequent runs have done nothing to dissuade us, really. He's running the Windsor Castle as an extremely high-class effort. Probably didn't seem so obvious on the day, but the subsequent exploits of those that finished in behind, such as Eddie's Boy, the winner, Little Brown Bear, and the 4th horse Chateau, has suggested that it was an above-average listed race this year. Probably looking at genuine Group 2 / even Group 1 horses. I think the winner could be a Group 1 horse, the way he won last time out at the Curragh. So it was really unfortunate for Rocket Rodney to bump into a horse of that stature in a race like that. And he gained compensation next time out at Sandown, winning, I thought, remarkably easily. Didn't really turn a hair that day. Beat Eddie's Boy, who's gone on to win the Super Sprint. So his form and his collateral form levels coming into this race are second to none. Plus the fact that he loves Goodwood. He's already proven himself early on in the season. So that's got to count for something. And the one thing he does want as well is a strongly run race. The fear factor was that come Goodwood, he might not necessarily get the gallop that he wants. But you've got 5 or 6 front runners in this race. Dicky Bird made all the running last time out at Chester. Eddie's Boy made all when it won the Super Sprint. Looking for Linda tried to make all in the Super Sprint down the middle, and she made all when she won at Nottingham. Studio City made all the running when he won at Navan. Thundermore made all the running when he won 2 runs ago, and Wallbank tried to make all in the Norfolk. So there's absolutely tons of pace signed on here. He's drawn stall 8, so if they come towards the standside rail, which they have done in recent times, I think the last 5 winners have all been drawn high. I think last year's winner was drawn 11 of 11 and more. That'll play into his strength. So, barring trouble in running, you can't really see what can possibly go wrong here for Rocket Rodney. So yeah, fingers crossed. Because George was a bit disappointed that he didn't win at Royal Ascot, but hopefully compensation awaits at the next biggest meeting at Goodwood.
The race looks to be run to suit them for Rocket Rodney, or 11 to 8. Jolly. Johnny, a word on the Jolly and anything else? Maybe Studio City for Michael O'Callaghan, who won the race, was still ball a couple of years ago.
He did indeed well back. So I remember watching the race in Galway actually. I actually think he's not a bad each way angling into race. As Andy mentioned, there's so much pace on here, but I don't think Wayne Moore is going to get into a pace struggle. He doesn't need to make the run. And when he won the last day, it was a question of probably just like, cutting out any excuses and just make the run. And he was sent off 2 to 9, so he's always going to win. But to be fair, the horse in second had actually run very well the time before, and he absolutely bolted up. And he's 10 to 1 each way. I think that's a very fair price. Obviously, you'd have to respect Rocket Rodney and Wallbank, who we spoke about so much before Royal Ascot and that controversial renewal. He's a horse that I would respect as well. I think he's probably a little bit hard on himself the way he races, whereas Studio City, I think, is a little bit more straightforward. And I'd respect Michael O'Callaghan coming over here. I think each way, I think he's going to run a very good race.
That's a look at the Molecomb. Anything else, Andy, on day 2? Of course, you've got some ultra competitive, the Oak Tree Stakes, and a couple of other interesting handicaps on the card.
Nothing as such. The main sort of angle of attack for me was Rocket Rodney. He's my sort of main interest of the entire week. I think the horse of Richard Hannons in the first race will go quite well for those looking for the interest in that horse called Mugadar. He clocked a big number when he won last time out. I think a mark of 86 is still quite workable for him. That Doncaster time figure, as I said, was very good. And at least with him as well, you've got course form, because he ran behind Double Cherry the time before. So he's one of the only few horses in that field that's had a spin round Goodwood, and he's improved since. So for those looking for a bet in that first race, he might be the one if he's the right kind of price.
Johnny, anything for you?
No, that's it for me on day 2.
That's day 2 covered. So then you go on to the Thursday, another interesting day of action. You've got the Richmond Stakes at 2:25, the Gordon Stakes at 3 o'clock. But first off, we'll have a look at the Nassau Stakes, the big Group 1 of the day at 3:35, £600,000 prize fund. And we've got another warm favourite here in the shape of Nashwa at 4 to 7, 14 Gosden and John and Thady Gotch and Holly Doyle. Even Lilac Road at 5s, My Astra at 13 to 2, Dream Loper at 10s, and bigger prices about the rest at around 14 to 1 for Ville de Grasse. Tough to oppose Nashwa here, Johnny?
I don't think it is at the prices, to be honest. I'm obviously disappointed the way the Oaks form has worked out. Emily Upjohn obviously completely flops on Saturday, but to be fair to Tuesday, I think she was very disappointing at the Curragh. So Nashwa can be a little bit free as well. So this is probably her trip, but I think she's far too short. I really like My Astra here. It's well worth watching her run at the Curragh the last day when. I like Strava when I cycle my bike, and it tells you all your data, whatever. If Strava were in action here, it would show that she covered a lot of ground. Like, she was ridden very wide. She came into the straight, basically forfeited a lot of ground, stayed on really strongly. That form is rock solid. Ross Carberry, Thunder Kiss, Le Petit Coco, and obviously William Haggas has had such a good year with his horses, his 4-year-olds, and I don't know. I think that's rock solid form, and I think she's probably value to beat Nashwa. Well, I think it's going to go off definitely bigger than the 4 to 7 available now. I know she won the French Oaks last time. She was all out to do so. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure how strong that form is, but I don't think this is going to be entirely straightforward for her taking on the older horse. And I think My Astra is going to run a big race. He obviously has Lilac Road as well, who I would respect. But My Astra each way, I think, is very, very solid.
My Astra at 10 to 1 with William Hill. Andy?
Absolutely, totally agree with Johnny. I must admit, this is the first time I've had a proper look at this race this morning when I was previewing. I couldn't for the life of me work out why Nashwa was 4 to 7. I thought, have I missed something here? I mean, she's up against a proper good bunch of older horses. I mean, there's an argument here that the older horses have got better and stronger form lines than Nashwa. I mean, Nashwa's, as Johnny's already pointed out, form is just, it's good. It's good quality Group 1 3-year-old form, but how good is the mare's or the filly's 3-year-old form? It's probably not as strong as what we thought a month or two ago.
Mm.
And you know, she was all out last time out. Plus the fact that she does race very keenly in her races early on. She gets on her head going down the back straight there. You know, Hollydor's going to have to try and settle her and drop her in somewhere, because you don't want to be too quick, be too keen out in the country or Goodwood. So there's a lot of factors to suggest that she should be even money or bigger here. I'll be quite willing to lay at 4 to 7. I don't even have to go to even money to lay her here. I can lay her at 4 to 7. Happy days. I agree with Johnny in some respects with my Astra, and I put that up that day and had a nice healthy bet on Willie Haggis's filly at 5 to 1, a back to her each way, and I was fuming with the ride that Danny Turner gave it, indicative of a jockey that has never ridden the Coroebus before. You just can't give that amount of ground away around the outside. And she, you know, she did everything in her powers to try and reel in the eventual winner, which didn't quite work. But William Haggis has got a strong hand here. He also runs Lilac Road, and I've always had a bit of a healthy respect for Lilac Road. I think she's improving at a rapid rate or not. She clocked some really fast times in her time when they go a good pace. Can't see this being slowly run. She's got form as well around Goodwood, so she's had a spin around the track, whereas Nashua hasn't. And I've noticed that Tom Marquand's booked up to ride her at this very moment in time, whereas my Astra hasn't got a jockey on. The thing is with my Astra as well, she's much better with a bit of dig in the ground, so the forecast might not necessarily be favourable for my Astra. She does go well on soft ground. So whether she ends up running or not, I don't know. But there's one thing for certain: Lilac Road will definitely run. And the price at the moment, I mean, that's got to be one of the each way bets of the week. That is at 5 to 1 each way. Lilac Road.
Yeah, big as 11 to 2 as well, Lilac Road. So votes for William Haggis's charges in the Nassau. 3 o'clock is the Gordon Stakes. Quite an interesting run on this event. You've got New London for Godolphin, who is the 9 to 4 favourite with Bet365 and Sky Bet. Who Yamal, of course, bought for £1.2 million. Going to run in this for George Bowie, and then we'll transfer to Gay Waterhouse with a Melbourne Cup bid potentially in the offing later on this year, 7 to 2. West Wind Blows at as big as 15 to 2. Grand Alliance at 9s. French Claim, Deauville Legend, and Al Karim all at 10 to 1. It's bigger for the remainder. Start of you this time, Andy, in the Gordon. Who do you like in this?
I think I got the right favourite. New London bounced back to form on better ground at Newmarket. I think he was the beneficiary of a break as well. I think those 2 races early in the season maybe just come a little bit too soon, or certainly the Chester run did after the Newmarket run, when he put in a huge effort that day on the clock to beat 2 well-regarded colts. They then decided to run him at Chester to see whether he was a Derby horse, but unfortunately the rain came and it played into the hands of Changing the Guard, who beat him fair and square on the day. But he just didn't handle the ground, New London. They've freshened him up, brought him back on fast ground, and he was a different horse the other day at Newmarket, won in a fast time. I know it was only a handicap, but it was a good quality handicap. The numbers certainly suggest he ran to a group level. And I think they're probably going to be targeting the St. Leger later on in the season. This is one of the stepping stones towards that. So I think, like I say, I think at 9 to 4, he's the one they've got to beat. But I've also got a huge amount of respect for the top one, Dover Legend. He was one of my horses I put up for the Raw meeting. He finished second in the King George Handicap, which is a really good run on the figures. And then they upped him in class last time out in the Bahrain Trophy, but he was equal to that task. Went through the race like a good horse, always looked as though he was going to win. Was all out at the end, but that was a mile 5. So I think dropping back to a mile 4 will be fine. And he'll go through this race like a good horse again. He's got a great cruising spin. I like those horses that take you into the depth of a race, particularly if you're looking at an each way bet, which this horse is. Did you say it was 10 or 12 to 1?
10 to 1, Andy, yeah.
10 to 1's a big price for him. And they'll go galloping as well, which will suit, because the bottom one, West Wind Blows, always goes off pretty quick. He went hard last time out when he won at Hamilton. So this race should be run really to suit Dover Legend. So, like I said, in summary, I think New London's the right favourite. But at the prices, for me, each way, Dover Legend stands out.
Dover Legend, that standout 10 to 1 is with William Hill. Johnny?
I think this is a good race, to be fair. New London looks a horse definitely on the up. I'd probably back French Claim each way. I thought he kind of did a lot of the donkey work in the Irish Derby the last day, but stayed on well, showed a good attitude. Obviously beat Tuesday, which isn't bad for him. I know Westover has let the form down, but that was his first shot at a mile and a half. Paddy Toomey's having an unbelievable year, and he looks a horse that stays this trip well, has a good attitude. I think he'll run a good race. He probably won't quite be good enough, but I wouldn't put you off back on each way. So very good Newell of this race.
That's French Claim. I think it's around an 8-1 chance, but as big as 10-1 with Betfair. The other group race on the card I'll have a quick look at is the Richmond Stakes, £150,000 prize fund. Another interesting contest in which your 7-4 favourite is Noble Style, Royal Scotsman, the Coventry third at 9-4, Chateau at 9-2, Marshman at 6s, Crispy Cat, who was very unlucky at Royal Ascot, 8-1, Alcaraz 10s, and Bigger the remainder. Another interesting 2-year-old event to get stuck into, Andy. Was there anything that stood out on times or just from recent efforts?
Yeah, I mean, the time horse is Noble Style. We said that when we previewed the Royal Meeting, but unfortunately missed the Coventry, which is a bit of a shame. This race obviously would be a good deal of compensation if he were to come here. He's not yet jocked up, so I don't know whether he's okay or not, but he's entered up, so that's a positive sign. Yeah, he's again 7-4. Pay your money, take your choice for that one, really. The one I'd probably prefer out of the two at the price at the moment, they've both got similar figures, is Royal Scotsman. At least with Royal Scotsman, you know that he handles Goodwood. He was very impressive when he won at the World Tour track early on in the season. And then they went to the Coventry with him. He finished a creditable third behind Bradswell, the winner. Again, the figure of that race, the Coventry, was a good one. One of the better 2-year-old times of the week. And he's been saved specifically for this ever since. So without overcomplicating, I can't see too many others in this race that have run faster times than either Noble Style or Royal Scotsman. Like I say, it's a spin of the coin between the two, but Spinners are the ones who run at the track, and we know he's well been, and the other one hasn't, and we don't know whether he'll run. At time of recording, he's got to be the pick.
Okay, Royal Scotsman 9-4. Johnny?
I think this is a cracking race. It's probably not a race that I have a bet in. We haven't seen, obviously, Noble Style since he won Baaeed Wallbank. He was very well fancied as well, showed a really smart turn of foot. Royal Scotsman, as Andy mentioned, has that form from the Coventry, and Alcaraz as well is very good at Windsor. So it's probably a race I'd like to watch, and just be interested to see the betting with regards to favourite, because obviously he did miss Ascot, but he looks a very, very good horse.
Any other business on day 3, Andy?
Yeah, just have a look in the first race. Again, I'm not sure what the arrangements are here. There's lots of multiple engaged horses, but I've been a bit advocate of the Britannia Handicap for a little while now. I've tried to get with that form line every time we've done these previews or when we've reviewed Ascot. I was drawing your attention to that straight mile contest and been a whole host of winners out of it. I think the winner and the fourth are now residing in Hong Kong. Thesis and Who Put 50 in You, but Jimi Hendrix flew the flag for the form the other day. Amortentia should have won as well out of it. That was a quite nail in the coffin to my betting at the Curragh the other weekend. That was a horrible ride. But Jimi Hendrix, he's jocked up to run here with Rod Hornby on board. He's quite versatile with regards to trip. He's won over 1.25 miles. He's run well in a strongly run mile. He was good last time on at Newmarket. And the horse that finished 6th as well, night catching 6th from a bad draw, Wowney's, trained by Charlie Hills, that is also entered up to run in this race as well. So if you're a follower of the Britannia form, like I am, you'll be looking to either one of those two.
Okay, that's the Kingston Handicap at 150 early prices. Jimi Hendrix at 10-1 with Betfair and Unibet and 1. He's 12-1 with the two same firms. Johnny?
Yeah, just the Nursery True Statesman, I think, is a horse bang on the OP Goss. I'm just looking here. He was 83 when he won at Chester. Absolutely bolted up. He's gone up to 91. Ryan Moore booked. So he's a top weight in that Nursery, but he's a fantastic attitude. Love the way he races, and I'd be backing him.
Okay, the Johnstons have won that race in 2014, 2016 and 2019, so could pay to follow True Statesman there. We move on to the Friday, another ultra competitive card. You've got the Bonhams Thoroughbred Stakes at 225, and the other group feature on the card is the King George Qatar Stakes, of course. Patash used to run in this race most years. £300,000 prize fund, 5 furlong event, and your early betting for this event, if I can find it, is 4-1 for Rarsell, 9-2 Mid-Bahi, 7-1 Cardem, Aklam Express at 8-1, along with Equilateral and Romantic Proposal, Lajolai at 10-1 and 14-1, and Bigger the remainder. And it's probably a renewal that might lack a serious Group 1 star in the making this year, but what do you make of the race overall?
I'd probably go in Mid-Bahi here. I've got a healthy respect for Razel, and it's time for me to pay tribute to the clock watchers and the Dixons for campaigning him the way they have. First of all, sending him to Michael Appleby, working him way through the ranks, not overfacing him, gradually stepping him up. Handicaps, listed races, Group 2s, Group 3s. Now, this is their ultimate target ever since they won last time out. And he's already won over the track as well. I think he's a 2 for 2 here at Goodwood. But there's no doubt in my mind that Mick Baaeed should have beaten him last time out at Sandown. First and foremost, David Egan went up the inside rail, which is not the place to be at Sandown. That's the slowest part of the track. And then secondly, he persisted with that run far too late, and he ended up not getting out until the die was cast. But I think with a clear run, he would have won that race easily. And he's just the kind of horse that will be suited to Goodwood. He's a hold-up horse that's got a good cruising speed and got a nice turn of foot. He likes to sit in behind a wall of horses. So they're spread out across the track here. He can pretty much choose where he goes. Obviously, draw pending. We don't know that information. But providing he's in the right place and he's round where the speed is, then I think Mick Baaeed, he'll be there or thereabouts. So if he's sort of 9 to 2, 5 to 1 at the moment, then there's no need to look any further than him from an each way perspective.
9 to 2 are Hills, Coral, and Ladbrokes. Johnny?
Yeah, he was 7s actually before I came on air. I really can't see how he's shorter than Russell because, as Andy mentions, he was patently unlucky the last day. He was just waiting for a run. Then when he got out, he couldn't quite match him. But like you could see, if he got a clear run, I think he would have won the race. Simple as. And as Andy says, this sort of field and the way the race is going to be run is going to totally suit him. I think, to be fair to David Egan, it was a bad day. I think he'll definitely be mission retrieval here. He'll be like trying to prove that he can get it right because the horse should have won, and I think he's a knocking each way, but it's not the strongest field. He's surely going to be thereabouts, and I expect him to reverse that form.
Okay, that's a look at the King George Qatar Stakes. The Bonhams Thoroughbred Stakes is the other highlight on the card. Bayside Boy at 6 to 4, Check and Challenge at 9 to 4, Berkshire Shadow at 3 to run, and bigger prices about the remainder, including Rocchiani at 8 to 1. Johnny, thoughts on this race?
Yeah, tough. Maybe LaSalle, just good run last time behind Tenebrism. I think that is solid form. And obviously you'd have to respect a Check and Challenge as well. Not a race we'll be getting heavily involved in, to be honest. And as Andy says, we don't know the draw. We don't know how it's going to work out. Bayside Boy looks probably a worthy favourite. Very good run, obviously, at Ascot last time. But it's not a race we're getting heavily involved in.
Andy?
I think there's going to be quite a few defectors in this race. So it might cut up a bit. But I'm pretty sure that Check and Challenge will come here. We've talked about unlucky losers quite extensively here on the podcast when previewing a few of these races. But there's none more so than this fella last time out. And luckily, I was on the right side of his unlucky run. I put up Sanjari on my column and felt as though I got away with daylight robbery because Check and Challenge should have won that day. He was given far too much to do. He had a wide draw to start off with, so Buick's hand was slightly forced in many respects by having to put him at the back of the field and ride him for luck, but he absolutely charged his way through the pack, and then he got done, was it half a length in the end? But he went down in my notebook as being a really unlucky loser. Obviously, he wasn't quite up to Group 1 standard the time before, when he didn't really run his race in the Guineas. But this is a far cry from Group 1 standard, and I think it's quite a substandard race. I don't think there's a huge amount of improves in this. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about Hotline Bling. I know it's a Drake song. But I don't know anything about the horse itself, having come from France, I'm afraid. I've got no figures on that one. And maybe Lucelle, I'm not sure whether he's entered up early in the week. I think he might. Did I see him in the Lennox Stakes? Yeah, I can't remember. My memory's going nowadays. But anyway, so yeah, like I say, this field could cut up. But hopefully Check and Challenge will prove that his unlucky run last time out was a sign of things to come.
Okay, that's a preview of the Bonhams, featuring a special guest appearance from Drake, of course.
I think it is a Drake song, isn't it? Hotline Bling. Yeah, sorry, I thought so. Yeah. You're more surprised about that than me knowing that than anything, I can tell.
A little bit. Never. Well, I know what your playlist is now, your gym playlist, or when you're working.
Yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff on there. There's 50 Cent and a lot of like hip hop stuff from back in the 80s and 90s.
The other race you wanted to quickly touch on, Andy, was the Golden Mile. Of course, we don't have the full decks for this, and there's a stack load in it. But I think 5 to 2 favourite was Noble Dynasty, 6 to 1 Shining Blue, Montasib at 8, 11s for Sinjari and Salem, and 14 to 1 and bigger the remainder. Anything that caught your eye here?
Yeah, if he gets in, I'm not sure whether he will. I'm not sure what the maximum field is, but if Lawful Command gets in this race, and there's likely to be quite a few defectors. I'd have a seriously look at him. He's number 31 on the card at the moment. I think maximum field 20, 22, something like that. he needs a little bit of luck. But he ran really well in the aforementioned Britannia when he finished 5th behind Thesis, and he did nothing wrong beyond Jimi Hendrix next time out at Newmarket. I don't think that real small field really suited him. All the good to firm ground. He didn't really, I don't know, it was really, really rock hard that day as well. That hardly had any water in on the track. But he was quite good when he won at Goodwood early in the season. He factored 2 for 2 over this course and distance, so we know that he handles Goodwood. And these 3-year-olds that are improving at rapid rate and not to are definitely worth keeping on side. So difficult to tip him wholeheartedly so far in advance, being as he needs a lot to come out. But if he does get in, then definitely make sure you have a few good on lawful command.
Okay, he's currently 33 to 1, top price with Sky Bet for Brian and Meehan. Johnny, anything else on the Friday?
That's it for me.
Let's look at the Friday then. And finally on the Saturday, well, we haven't got full entry for most of the races, but we do for the Lilly Langtry and at 3:20, of course, the Stewards Cup, one of the biggest betting races of the year. And just having a quick look at the Lilly Langtry first, you've got Free Wind as your solid 11 to 10 favourite. Sea La Rosa at 6 to 1. Princess Zoe, Lily Pond, and Believe in Love all at 9 to 1. Another short price favourite here, Johnny. Would you be with Free Wind in the Lilly Langtry?
Absolutely all over. I'm just reminded of the Dam Alive Live O running in Ireland, but obviously this horse was kind of one of the chats of the summer, really, because of the stewarding at Haydock the last day. I think it's brought to the fore the issue with stewarding and how mad it is in Britain at times. But for a horse to win, she won by 2 1/4 lengths after everything that happened. And she, like, to have that sort of attitude to race when you meet that much trouble, and basically, like, a lot of horses, particularly like Magic Fillies, would have probably just shied away from it. She was dropping back to 1.5 miles on that occasion, but she had a turn of foot, and as Dermot Wells talks about these horses, she's a stayer with speed. She's very, very good, and I think she's 11 to 10. I think best price at the moment. What's going to beat her here? Will Princess Zoe rock up? Obviously, maybe she will, but even so, she's a Galileo filly on the up. I think she's definitely going to go off odds on.
Okay, that's Free Wind. Are you in agreement, Andy?
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that assessment from Johnny. Really progressive filly. Would have won quite comfortably had she not been badly interfered with, which I didn't make any sense what they ended up doing in the stewards room that day. And we know that she's handled Goodwood as well. She won the maiden here, didn't she, last year? So sometimes when you look at these short price favourites, you think, well, will they handle the track? We don't know that information, but she definitely ticks that box as well. So 11 to 10, not the greatest value bet that we've given on the podcast. We've given horses at bigger prices, but I think Johnny could be right. She might even go off a shade of odds on.
And finally, on this whistle-stop tour of Goodwood, we come to the 3:20, which is the £250,000 Coral Stewards Cup over 6 furlongs. At the moment in the betting, the 10 to 1, or your 9 to 1 favourite actually is Mr. Wagyu. 10 to 1 for Win the Beat, Lethal Levi, Potmaster, Inver Park, Great Ambassador. 12 to 1 for First Volio. Nahara at 16 to 1 along with Summergand. And it's 20 to 1 and bigger about Jumbie, Method, Chill, and more. Johnny, any early fancies for the Stewards Cup at this stage? I know it's a tricky question to answer.
Very, very tough. I'd possibly go for regional. I have to say he's just like he's only had 10 runs. Showed a great attitude at Doncaster the last day. He didn't win, but he stayed on well for pressure. So imagine the bigger field would suit here, but very, very tough.
Andy?
Yeah, normally I've got a horse or at least 2 horses tucked away up my sleeve for the Stewards Cup. You know, you go through all the big field handicaps that run throughout the season, particularly the Molecomb. You do your work on that race, and then you just slot all the pieces together and think, well, you know, you look at the Goodwood form. If any horse is running this in the Stewards Cup and they've got Goodwood form, a lot of those bases are covered. But as far as I could see, there's not really that many that sort of appeal. I mean, Inver Park's the obvious one, but he's never run at Goodwood. Even though that last cup race that he won last time out has worked out really well. So yeah, I'd probably at this stage be looking to sort of save this preview or my thoughts until the day itself. I haven't got anything I'm desperate to put up at this stage.
Okay, but regional from Johnny at 20 to 1 across the board. Well, that's a look at Goodwood. Just before we finish the Goodwood chat, just your nap of Goodwood, Johnny?
Kyprios.
Andy?
Rocket Rodney.
Rocket Rodney and Kyprios for the guys. And then, Johnny, let's go over to Galway. Of course, the action gets underway there today at the time of recording on Monday and runs through till Sunday. You've got, of course, the likes of the Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle. Anything that punters should be looking at over the next 7 days?
Yeah, so we're just recording this on Monday morning. I have to say I'm really looking forward to Galway. I think it's become a really, really good festival, and I'll be giving tips throughout the week. But Bandwidth is a horse running tonight. I think very, very interesting. Bad draw. Be interesting to see if he can get away with that draw. And Cape Gentleman in the Galway Plate. I just think this horse is fascinating for his lack of experience. We won the Galway Plate is unusual, but that's Emma Mullins. And if you look at his runs when he beat One Wild Fred in Cork, Noble Yates was fourth on that occasion. The horse that was second, obviously, One Wild Fred, then bolted up in Troy Town. He's won here off 152. He was a good novice hurdler as well. Actually ran on the flat at Royal Ascot as well and ran very well under Rachel Blackmore last year. No problems with the ground. Donna Weiler's been booked. I've been on David as to who's going to ride this horse. 11 stone 4. I think he'd be ridden handy. Sevens, I think, is really, really good value in a race in which none really has anything in hand.
Okay, the Shunter 13-2 favourite there for the Galway Plate. Cape Gentleman at 7-1 on with Fire Attack. Gabanaco at 8-1. Andy, I guess a lot of your focus is at Goodwood, but anything at Galway, or will it just be a watching brief for you?
It'd probably be the other way around for me. I think Galway's my main betting medium of the week. I'll look towards the Irish card first and then do a Goodwood second.
You're a glorified Irishman at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You look at Bandwidth. I mean, Johnny's already mentioned. I would have put up Bandwidth. The only reason I'm put up Bandwidth today is the draw. He was going to be one of my bets of the meeting. I still might back him actually a little bit later on. It just depends on whether he drifts back out to what I would call a reasonable price. I wanted to back him each way from stall 17, put it 3-1, 7-2. It's hard to justify putting him up each way at that price. But yeah, he was hugely unlucky at Limerick last time out. He should have won. I mean, the horse was favourite to beat him tonight. Wouldn't have got anywhere near him with a clear run. But I like the fact that he's run twice and won twice at Sligo. For those that don't know the Irish tracks really well, Sligo is almost a carbon copy of Galway. You have to come up a steep hill before you turn into the home straight, and there's only like 2 furlongs to the line or even less. So the fact that he's done that twice and he was unlucky last time out all add up to him being a Galway horse. I've got about a list of 4 or 5 that I've written down and said, Galway horse, and he was one of them. But I was horrified when he got that draw. Looking at the plate, I thought Cape Gentleman was an interesting runner because he's already run at the track before. And I do like second season novices that have been running in grade 2 or grade 1s. So he's definitely on my shortlist along with Gabby Nacco. Gabby Nacco got beat by the Grand National winner, Noble Yates, in October. Mm-hmm. And he subsequently ran against the very, very best. I think he was behind Blue Lord last time in a grade 1 at Punchestown. His body of work is one of a really consistent type. I can't see him not going well, Gabby Nacco, with a clear run. And the other one I thought was a big price as well is Castle Grace Paddy. Now he's getting on a bit now. He's an 11-year-old, but he absolutely bolted up the other day at Killarney. I was quite surprised that he showed enough speed.
He handled the ground dandy as well.
Yeah, he did. I must admit, there was a horse in that race. There was Raven Rule and there was Happy Jackie. I think Happy Jackie had won over hurdles around the track previously and was a short price favourite to win that day. And I thought it would win. And Castle Grace Paddy absolutely battered it. So he's obviously in clearly good order. I've noticed I booked Brian Cooper for him as well. But you look at all his form over fences, grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s. He's often best seen in small field conditions races and the graded races over in Ireland without winning. But he's unexposed in handicaps and he's got a mark of 149. So I thought there was a bit of potential with him. And he's like 25, 33-1, which looks massive price for a horse of his quality. And at least he's in good form. So my short list would be Cape Gentleman, Gabby Nacco, Castle Grace Paddy. Probably the latter two would be my bets. And what about the hurdle, John? Have you got an opinion there?
Like Tax for Max, it's fascinating that without looking, we don't have the decks, but Echoes in Rain looks like she'd be top weight, and Catherine Mullins has won 3 of the last 4 Galway hurdles on top weights, but he's never won the feature on the Monday, and she's favoured on the Monday. She's a horrible draw. So maybe it's written in the stars that she wins the Galway hurdle. I'm not a big fan of the horse, to be honest, but I think Tax for Max is very solid.
I think the one thing about the Galway hurdle, which is difficult for betting purposes and this podcast purposes at the moment, is you've got 2 or 3 runners likely to run early on the week. You've got Farut in the amateur race, and you've got HMSC horse in the opener, and obviously they could both take their chances in the Galway hurdle. And if they come through their respective races with a clean bill of health, or win, like they both possibly could, because they're both one of the favourites, the whole dynamics of the Galway hurdle would change because they've had the benefit of a run. So I'd probably be sitting on the fence until I've seen those two run. Echoes of Rain is another one as well. She's got top weight.
Okay, so a nod to Banwift tonight from the guys, and then also in the Galway plate. Cape Gentleman for Johnny at 7-1. Gabanaco at 8-1 for Andy, along with 33-1. Pope Castle Grace Paddy. And I'm sure the guys will have plenty of tips on the oddschecker site throughout the week. So that's thanks very much for your company today, guys. That's a good look at all of the action at Goodwood and Galway. Johnny, enjoy Galway this week, and look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks a million, guys.
Cheers, Andy. And we can see your tips on the oddschecker app every day, can't we?
Yeah, they'll be there early doors. Got no distractions this week. Head down, studying hard every day, so hopefully we can come up with a few. But more predominantly, we need a little bit of luck in running.
Fantastic. Good stuff from the guys as ever. Just a quick reminder to do check out the oddschecker app throughout the week for Andy's best bets and the legion of other oddschecker tipsters. And of course, do like and subscribe to the Racing Weekly on our YouTube channel with Rishi and Sam Turner. Thanks again for your company this week. A good hour spent looking ahead to Goodwood and Galway. Good luck with any bets this week. And we'll see you soon on the Oddschecker Betting Podcast.